Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. Welcome. Thanks for coming out on this rainy day and chilly day to the first in what we are now calling the Verkuteran Regional History Forum Series in honor of the late and wonderful Carl Verkuteran, who was your MC here for more than 45 years. And we certainly remember him well. With great honor, I've just had the pleasure of the last few years of going through all 165 of the previous programs that were only available in audio, and dubbing them off, so they are now going to be available for purchase downstairs. We'll talk to you about that in a little bit, but first I want to mention our series. We've got 35 days in February this year because we have 5 programs. This one, of course, today, starting with Victor. We'll talk about him in a moment. Coming up on next week will be David and Christian Benko from the Neon Sign Museum. We're going to talk about bringing the Jansen Beach Carousel to here on the 21st. Dan Bolt will be talking, the former Wasco County Surveyor. We're talking about the land donation program and how basically the town was created, a series of donations. And then I will be doing the 28th program about the other Mayor Mays, the one, not the current one, but the one from 1891. We'll be talking about him. And then as a special extra, on March 7th, we have Bob Pollock of the Fort Dalles Museum. We'll be talking about the Grand Army of the Republic, which was the veterans group for the Union soldiers following the Civil War, which met here in the Dalles a couple of times. They had a big arch right over the street, and I'll tell you all about that. So a couple of other things. One is we have all of those. The other is these tapes that I spent several years actually dubbing off because you had to plug them in and play them back in real time. And they are now going to be available with lots and lots of programs from, sorry, a lot of people who are no longer with us, but you'll be able to listen to some people from the past, former Mayor John Lindell doing presentations, Jim Weeks, Jim Deere, Christine Keith is on one, so some of the folks that have been around for a long time will really appreciate hearing some of them. They're all going to be available, and what we'll do is we've got them all on a computer downstairs, and we will sell you for $5 a thumb drive, and for each one you want, we'll sell you another $5. We can put a bunch of them on one thumb drive if you want, so that's going to be available from now on. You also got a chance to enter in. Everybody got a free ticket today. We have a couple of items we're drawing for here today, including, looks like some of Victor's coffee there. Is that right, Victor?
Equal exchange coffee, yeah.
Equal exchange, fair traded coffee, and also a nice plant. What is that? I didn't look at what it was.
Wicked chickens lay deviled eggs. Okay, that's not the plant. Why limit happy to an hour? I don't know.
Okay, it's a cool plant. Anyway.
Yeah.
And every one of these you get today also gets put into the drawing at the very end for 2 grand prizes, one of which is the big basket of goodies you saw downstairs, and the other is a treasure chest. And you can be an instant millionaire because it has a $50 million bill in there. $50 million bill. They're not US dollars, I'm sorry to say. They're from Zimbabwe, and it's worth about $3, but it has bragging rights with it. So the deal is that every one of the ones that you put in today will also go into the pot for the big one at the end. If you wish to buy additional chances for those 2 big prizes, they're $5 a ticket or 3 for $10. We'll do that downstairs on the way up. Though you have to be present to win, which is a sneaky way of getting us on to the last one that's outside the normal February channels. So, for today's program, we have the inestimable Victor Johnson. And as an old DJ, I want to say in my head, it was 20 years ago today to taught the band to play. It was 20 years ago that I did the story in the Chronicle about Victor getting contacted by an ad agency from Ireland who hired his song, what's the song was it? It was the Light of Mine, for an advertising campaign for like 2 years, right? All the stuff in Ireland for Tayto, T-A-Y-T-O, crisps, which is what they call chips over there. And that came because he was on a CD one of the many he's put out. And this was a collection of a bunch of people, and they liked his song so much. Well, everybody here who knows him knows that he does a great job as an entertainer, particularly children's songs, but he also is, what you call it, an entrepreneur who has rebuilt the Herbring house, which is the one just west of the old church there. And it's going to tell you all about it today, and I'm probably leaving something else, so Victor, fill in whatever it is and take it away.
Thank you, Roger. And thanks to everyone. So yeah, I'm the guy that was too dumb to know it was impossible to do. So yeah, the basic story, and I'll kind of, we'll let the train pass a little bit. That's the nice thing about the trains. You know you're in the Dalles, and there's always some trains going by. Can you have just a little bit more volume? No, mic won't there. Okay, so the basic story, the setup is 2015, my daughter had graduated from high school, and I really just didn't know what to do with myself. So you spend, a really large chunk of your life just making sure that your kids are fed and clothed and everything like that, and then something very weird happens, and you change gears, and then like your mission is gone. I mean, like it never really ends, but I just didn't know what to do with myself after she graduated. So I was kind of floating, and as Roger mentioned, things were going fairly well for me. I was like, in the music world, I just kind of landed in the right place at the right time. I was like one of the very first musicians, independent musicians, like on iTunes, and it's when YouTube started and all these things started, and it was like a way that a person that lived in a little town in Eastern Oregon could be at home, taking care of his family, and have an international exposure. It was really a lot of my success was just being in the right place at the right time.
With the right skills.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. I mean, I feel like I work hard and I try to do my best, but there's so much luck involved in success. I think anybody that doesn't say that is way too full of themselves. So it was just the right place at the right time. I had like income regardless of what I was working on. So like it wasn't like a ton, but it was like 3 times more than I needed to live. So I had the space to do something, and I had a void I needed to fill. So I'd always liked this house. I remember just seeing this house my whole life, and I was headed to the Sisters Folk Festival in 2015. So I was headed to the Sisters Folk Festival, and I was driving right here on this street, West 3rd Street, and I was driving by that house, and it was like, that thing ever came up. I might want to take a run at it, try and fix it up. And for whatever reason, I took a right on Lincoln Street there at the Landmark, and it came back around on 4th, and Dennis Morgan had a for sale sign on it. Oh. So I was headed to Sisters to do the song camp and the festival. So I called Dennis, and I said, Dennis, this is Victor. Do not sell that house. I got to leave town for a week. Do not sell this house before I get a chance to see it. No matter what you do not sell this house. And then I left, and I didn't hear from Dennis for like a week because he was at the Shakespeare Festival in Ashland. So I don't even know if he was answering his phone. You guys know Dennis. So anyway, he called me back, and we took a look, and we started going through it, and it was rough. Boy, it was a disaster. But it was awesome, and I could see it all from the very beginning. And like I said, like I was just the one that was dumb enough that didn't know it couldn't be done. Like no smart person would have done this. Like no business person ever would have got their money back. No, it was just, yeah. Anyway, but I like the impossible tasks. Like if I think I can do it, if I know I can do it, it's not interesting to me. Like there has to be a chance that it can't be done for me to feel like it's worth my time. So we made a deal, and the owner was this guy named Tom Dixon, who was very helpful. He helped facilitate the deal. We did it with your owner contract, because no bank would touch it, no insurance company would touch it. It was just too far gone. And actually, the brick was in pretty good shape. It was just like most of the wood. The foundation was crumbling. The roof, there were like birds flying around inside. You could see daylight. We had 18 buckets catching rain. There was raccoons living under the floor, and there were humans living in the backyard, like in their bushes and stuff. So yeah, it was quite the project. But you can see, I mean, now it's kind of fixed up a little bit in that picture. I mean, it really was. I mean, you could see the beauty. It had just been declining for decades and decades. So that was kind of the setup. So we decided to take a run at it. And I think with these pictures, we'll just kind of jump around. But this is a Watkins picture from 1867 looking across the river from Dallasport, which they called Rockland. And you can see there's the white Catholic church is there, the wooden one, which is sitting where the brick one is, but it's oriented to differently. And so we're right next to that. So you can see actually in that picture, if you have a magnifying glass, you can see the original house, which wasn't much. I think we figure it was built in like 1860, 1864. It's one of those things, a lot of historians in this room, you'll see that it didn't exist on like the insurance maps in 1859, and it was there in 1864. So somewhere in that window it was built. And then I think it was added on in 1890, same kind of thing, the brick addition was about 1890. And I think a lot of this is just guesswork, but the real cutesy Victorian look on the wood part was done at that time, I think when they did the addition, they cutesied up everything else. And that was Herbring who did all that stuff. So there's a picture of the front, which is very cool. It's got the wrought iron fence. We were lucky enough to get some amazing photographs. It's a good thing the Herbrings were rich because they had a lot of photos. And the family found me online and offered to send me these pictures of the property, which is just incredible. Like when I bought this place, the front porch didn't look anything like that. It was almost just like plywood deck with some 4x4s and some goofy rotten steps. So we didn't even know what to do with the deck until we got these photos, which was a kind of a reoccurring theme throughout. It's like just by grace or karma or whatever, what we needed was provided somehow, whether it was a person or a photo or a piece of equipment or a tool or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of a miracle the way all this happened. There's another great shot, wooden fence instead of the metal, with that carriage there. And where you see that tree kind of behind the horse, in other pictures, that's a power pole. So we just kind of switched that out. That's the Herbring family, some of them. This we just got, and this is part of the ongoing story. So this was given to us a few months ago, and this is the Herbring store. So for like 10 years, we tried to find a picture of that. And if you see, it's like, I mean, the doors are like 12 feet tall, probably. Those panes of glass are about like 8 by 12 plate glass windows with all the art glass on top and stuff. I think Herbring actually started out as, we came to America as an immigrant apprentice for like a store apprentice, like shop, like dry goods stores and stuff like that. So it came from Germany. And I don't have all the dates memorized and years and things, but he came here and went to work for the Gottfried brothers, who had some kind of a dry goods store. So he apprenticed with them, ended up marrying Adolphine Gottfried. So ended up marrying little sister of the guys he was working for, and then ended up doing his own shop. So I think he did his own dry goods store for a while, and then he started getting into like the clothes and shoes and things like that. And we have some descriptions of Henry Herbring being described as a dandy. Herbring liked fancy clothes, he liked to dress up, and he liked selling the nice stuff. And so I just figured out yesterday a little more of the story. So 90% sure that this store is exactly across the street from where Clint's is right now. And so I'm pretty sure that's just like 2 shops to the left of the Canton Walk right now. So I think that this would have been in the boat building that burned down, right? And this is where I got confused, because I thought that that building all burned down. But I was just talking to Aaron Bucher, the roofing guy from Brown Roofing, and he said it was just the upstairs that burned down. So the diary, I have a diary from the Herbrings, and they talk about the big fire that swept through the downtown. And Herbring was out on some kind of a buying run. He was buying clothes and stuff back east when the fire happened. And they called him on the road, or he called in. He's like, "Is the store still there?" They're like, "Yeah, the fire stopped right at our store. It didn't get the store." So Herbring just kept going and buying some more stuff. so in the diary, they talk about, is it, a lot of historians here, I'm going to ask for a lifeline, is it Nichols or Nicholson bookstore that became? Nicholson, thank you. So Nicholson Stationery and Books burned down in that fire. And they went into that store temporarily. So Nicholson Stationery was in the Herbring store, and in the diary it says, until they moved directly across the street into their permanent location. And if you look, it's kind of hard to tell here, but if you come down the shop, we have a big one blown up, and it's really high definition, so you can see stuff. And you can look in the reflection of the mirror, and you can see kind of a jagged kind of profile on the awning. And we have pictures of the Weigelt and Nicholson bookstore with that same awning. So I'm like 95% sure that it's all starting to come together. And I didn't write it, but I did yesterday, because I thought the whole building burned down. But apparently it was just the upper level, at least part of the building. So anyway, yeah, and it's very cool, because I went to get some shirts printed at this new print shop that prints charming people. They do like computer repair and shirt making, which is awesome. I went down in their basement, and you can see all the rock walls that went out towards the street. So there's like the basalt things and the archways and stuff that have been all concreted off. So basically, I was in the basement of the old Herbring store, kind of. So anyway, I get so nerdy about this stuff. Yeah, Phil.
What year is that photo?
I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still on the hunt. So. Okay. Oh, and here it is. This is a picture my sister Sherry gave me for Christmas, and that is Clint's store. Well, the storefront now. Back when it was like a grocery store. Those are apples for sale, eggs for sale, cans of whatever, and with the picture in a magnifying glass, so you can make out the posters. I haven't written them out yet, but you can see, yeah, the awning, the little profile there, the little toothed out kind of notch there. So anyway, always trying to put things together. There is a picture from. Boy, this is the back of our thing. There's a trellis that we recreated from these old photos that came from the Herbring family. And through the trellis, you can see St. Mary's Academy. So this would be looking north across, like basically where St. Vincent Hall was. That's where the giant St. Mary's was. So we tried to recreate some of the stuff through the old photos, like the front porch and the trellis and stuff like that. And there's a picture, the modern picture of the trellis. So looking towards the building, so looking through. We've got like a favorite courtyard now. We've got a stage. We've got a little fake fountain there that will be a real fountain someday. There's my Uncle Bill on tractor. This is a few days into it. I wish we had a picture of like day one. Like it's actually looking pretty good right there. There was these mounds back there that were like garden beds, but I was really worried they were like bodies. And now you can see the modern picture. There's our courtyard. We were doing a concert with Captain Claire, my friend, and sometimes we'll just have these concerts and we'll just get chairs for people, and yeah, it just works out good. We've done a class reunion there. We've had my daughter. We did a wedding reception there. We tied in Landmark Church, we put a staircase and sidewalk in there so we can have kind of smallish events. Here's some of the pictures that were of the property. This is the cafe space, and that wall where the windows is was really pretty much just rotted out. We had to replace that entire wall. The first floors were pretty good shape, but all the supports were all rotten. So we had to get rid of that. And what we ended up doing for that solution was we built a new foundation wall there and poured concrete. We poured concrete, stamped concrete, so we kind of colored it to kind of match the floor, similar to the brick flooring. And we ended up doing, you can see where that chimney is. That's like where our bathroom door is. We ended up, all that mortar was rotten, so there's like the salt and mortar, brick and mortar foundation. We ended up doing, I think, 53 linear feet of shotcrete is what they call it. So it's like when they do those fancy swimming pools, so it's like shooting concrete onto a wall. They make a giant rebar cage, and we do like six inches of concrete on the spring, and a lot of it like goes through the rocks and stuff like that, so it's super, super strong. And we ended up doing the shotcrete. I think like normal concrete is about, the strength of it is about 1,800 pounds per square inch, and this stuff is like 8,000. This is the stuff that when they're building like throughway supports and stuff like that. So it's super, super strong, and it shouldn't be a problem. Kind of the goal was, and there's some of the supports we are supported up to do the foundation. But one of the goals was I figured it had been there for 150 years, so I wanted to make it last another 150 years. Was kind of my mantra, and better every day. So that was always, as long as it was just a little bit better. Okay, there's the open wall, so there's where the window was. So that brick wall was collapsing, and the exterior wall was completely rotten. One of these pictures has like a jackhammer sticking out that got stuck. There's a big rock there where the brick came into. So we totally reframed that. Andy Harmon reframed all that, and that's what it looks like basically today, with the stamped concrete floors, the new wall windows. We put a gas fireplace in, and it's hard to see, but we got an antique fireplace grate, and then Uncle Bill manufactured. I would say like old things and new things don't play well together. So we got a new gas fireplace and an antique cast iron thing, and it's very cool. It has like the eagle with the arrows and evergreen trees and genie lamps and stuff, but it was the wrong shape. So Bill fabricated in his metal shop a way to make the holes in the new play well together. It's one of the apartments. So right now we have 3 Airbnb apartments. Yeah, that was a real mess. That whole floor, and again, the third floor was in great shape, but all the supports were rotten, and there was one center spine that was fine. So the whole room was like with a teeter totter. So it was like a 13 by 16 foot room that would go back and forth. And if you were there on the wrong day, you'd scare the raccoons and they'd run out. And yeah. So that's looking towards the back. And you can see kind of the fire suppression system. We had to do a sprinkler system for this. So when I talked to the building codes, they were like, well, if it's just residential, no sprinklers. If it's commercial, no sprinklers. But once you combine the two, you have to sprinkler everything. And you can see there's a little brick, like tomb kind of looking thing. It's just a brick enclosure. We have a sprinkler head in there. It's so ridiculous. There's nothing to burn in there, but we still have to do it. So sprinklers throughout, including the crawl spaces and attics, under the porches, like everything. Luckily, we got some urban renewal money to help with that. We were the very first project in the Dalles to get urban renewal money for sprinkler systems, which the fire department, who's on the urban renewal board, really pushed for. So they were happy that someone did it. And I was really belly aching about it until they had that big fire in Oakland, where up to that ghost ship place, all the people died everywhere else. So I was like, okay, well, yeah, it needs to be done. It's important. So that was about $30,000 for just the inside part, and the city picked up 20. So in those days, it was like a 2/3 they would pick up. me not knowing what I was doing, I didn't know that, you know, the brain was gonna cost another $3,000 to call the fire department. And I didn't know that it was gonna cost $6,000 to move the 4-inch main in the street 5 feet. So, you know, we're into it for probably 40 something, you know, but it's be way more now. I can tell you that. So anyway, sprinklers are important, but they're a back-breaking expense. So we're really lucky to have something like the Herbring Rule that's willing to help, you know, the city of Dalles. Those are great places to spend our money. There's my man Aaron Buchert from Brown Roofing. Aaron found some really great models. This is that same apartment where the Airbnb is, the tilted world floor. And there was one of those trash pits. So before that addition made, before outhouse or before bathrooms, there was outhouses and trash pits. So we found a bunch of stuff in that. And we have a little, when we do these tours to Ireland, we always have these curiosity cabinets. So I made my own little curiosity cabinets, mostly bottles, like the bottle Aaron's holding right there is very cool. He thinks it's like 1870s, and he's the president of the Wasco County and State of Oregon Bottle Collectors Club. So I take his word on it. I call that Aaron's happy face. And so there's the finished apartment. Well, yeah, it's actually it's furnished now, but you get the idea. We half the walls were plastered and half of them were brick. Like somebody was going to take a wall of brick. And so when I bought this place, I didn't realize that it was on a contract with restoration, SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and you can sign up and get a 15-year tax break, and then they'll reassess you. So mine, when I bought this, it was like 7 or 8 years into it. And I didn't really realize that until I purchased it. And we're like signing the papers, and they're like, and you know you gotta fix this place up, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of. It's like, no, you have to like, there's like a preservation plan that you have to follow. I'm like, nobody's saying anything about that. So we paused the whole deal, and I talked with the assessors and talked with SHPO and everything, and got it worked out luckily. The reason I bring this up is because I swapped, I asked SHPO if I could, well, first of all, I said, they thought it was almost done. I'm like, no, this thing is not close to being done. You gotta come look at it. So they came up and they were like, oh yeah, okay. Wow, okay. If you can just not change the outside, we can be really flexible about the inside. I go, okay, well, what about these walls? Because half of them are plaster and half of them are brick. And they're like, well, brick walls are really low brow. I know it's like chic now, but, you know, this is a nice home, and they were plastered, you know, so these be plastered. And then I was looking at the shed outside. I'm like, well, what about that shed outside? And they're like, I don't know, what about it? And I'm like, well, if I plastered these walls, could I keep the shed outside? And they're like, sure, why not? so anyway, I'm very happy to have my shed outside. I traded for the walls. And these look better as plaster. They look much nicer. And we left some brick walls here, one in the cafe and one upstairs in one of the apartments, just so you can see, because they're very cool. Like, the headers over these windows were like done with hatchets. I mean, you can see where somebody did it with an axe and they shaved these beams down and stuff like that. So to me, there's like works of art. I'm not going to cover up everything. I mean, there was pieces of wood. There were 1 by 20 boards on like the siding, 20 inches wide, legit one thick, you know. And that's what the siding of the house was. And it's all covered up with sheetrock. I took a bunch of pictures, but it's just like, oh my gosh. So the wood in that place, you know, the material is really incredible. This is another one of the apartments. This is the upstairs apartment, which I call the steeple view studio. So we have a 1-bedroom apartment and then 2 studios. So the 1 bedroom, the upstairs of the wood part, and then 2 studios in the brick up and down. And there's that. So nice 12-foot ceilings. We've been picking up some antique furniture at St. Vincent de Paul and yard sales. And I picked up that light fixture. It's a really nice Art Deco light fixture, which is probably not the right era, but it's so amazing. I have to put it. So, with the 12-foot ceilings, you can put You put two canopy beds and they're stacked on top of each other. So, yeah, so that's how this, there's great Chinese proverbs all over the place. One is, house finished when man dead. I like that. And this is the other one, the person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person doing it. So, well, I have all kinds of notes here, but we're just kind of free flowing. So the downstairs right now, we've got this little mercantile thing. I wanted to do like an ice cream shop, because like 11 years ago there wasn't any. Now there was like 4 for a while. So we pivoted from the ice cream shop to like a coffee shop. I don't even drink coffee, so it's slowly turning into like a mercantile. So it's turning into like, we'll have tea and coffee, but like an old timey mercantile. We've been doing our own like canned pears, and I'm starting my own honey and things like that. So. You know, this is just a big art project, and I always feel like in songwriting, sometimes you want to write a song, and the song wants to be something else, right? So I had an idea of what I wanted this building to be, but it wanted to be something else. And you just have to listen to what the art wants sometimes. And sometimes it takes a while to hear it. And sometimes it takes a while to just accept it too. Like you might hear it and not want to do it. So I think naturally and organically we're finding our way. And the shack, my next hope is I want to turn that into like a little fruit stand, like a little farm stand thing, and do our own like fresh food and stuff in the summertime. And I think we're going to be fine with that. We have to get like cleanable floors and things like that, but it works in our zoning, and we have the parking, so it shouldn't be a problem. So that's kind of the next dream there. We want to put a real fountain there, with the little farm stand going, and then yeah, I think so. How are we doing time-wise, Roger? 2 o'clock. Okay. So maybe we'll just pause a little bit and just field any questions. And Pauline?
Okay, just repeat the questions so that the recording will be helpful.
I'll give that song.
Did the family use the brick structure, and what did they use it for?
Yeah, the question is, did the family use the brick structure? And I'm sure they did, yeah. It was, I think, Herbring that built it. And I should have said this earlier, Herbring had like 8 kids. So I think the house was too small for him and not grand enough for him. I think he wanted a grand home. So I think that, yeah, they built the extra space to house the extra kids and family and stuff like that. And then at one point, this was like a boarding house. The woman told me that her grandmother owned it when they were building the dam. So there were like room numbers, like 3 and 7 on some of the doors that are restored and stuff. So I think she would make them breakfast, they'd go to work, she'd make them dinner in the evening. There was a lot of that going on. And Herbring, I also should say, you know, Herbring was definitely like involved in the community. Supposedly he brought the plans for St. Peter's Church from Germany. Supposedly he donated the weatherproofing on the rooster. For sure, the very first window in St. Peter's, the stained glass window, is the Herbring. It's the Herbring window. He was on the design committee for St. Mary's Academy, the big one, the big brick one across the street. So, you know, he was really involved in a lot of community stuff, especially around the church.
What's the layout of that brick building? The whole top floor is the one apartment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, what's the layout? And I think if you think of it in quarters, so there's the brick half and the wooden half, and then there's the upstairs and there's the downstairs. And this isn't exactly right, but this is good enough for visualizing. So the upstairs of the wood is the 1-bedroom apartment, and it has a full kitchen, laundry, and everything. The downstairs of the wood is the tea shop mercantile space. The upstairs of the brick is the steeple view studio, what I'm calling it. And
The whole floor?
well, it's kind of,
It looks so big.
yeah, it's not the whole floor. I'd say like 70%. There's a room I have just for storage, and then there's a hallway that would have connected the brick to the wood that's just blocked off. So So that probably takes up about a third of it maybe. And then at the bottom, I'd say like where the wood goes to, that's the downstairs apartment, which I'm calling the bunkhouse. So I built some like oversized bunk beds, like 4x6 bunk beds. And what I was thinking is that when people come in on this bike trail, the scenic bike trail, you know, if you have these expensive bicycles, you know, they might have like an $8,000 bicycle. They don't want to keep them outside, so I put bike racks on the end of the bunk bed, so they're massively sturdy and overbuilt, but it kind of matches the house, and it's got 11-foot ceilings. So you can have your expensive bike inside with you, and if you're coming in with someone that's not your partner, like your, you know, if you're coming with a friend or, you know, whatever, you can split a cheap room but not be in the same bed together. So I've got the bunkhouse, the steeple view, and then just kind of the main apartment, which I haven't got a cutesy name for. It's just kind of Herbring residence or something. And then so the very end of the brick on the bottom, you know, is like kind of the back of the house for the cafe, like the dishwashing and the fire suppression. You kind of saw that picture.
Was that trim there just like that?
It
Did you
was-
restore any of that?
We restored some of it. That's a great question. So the question is, do we restore the trim or was it like that? Yeah, the finials, it's kind of hard. The light bulb is kind of blocked in the corner finial. But there's these really nice finials on there's 5 of them, oddly. And a couple of those they've been destroyed, I think just from the wind and time. So we built that, and that was part of it. We had an urban renewal facade grant. So urban renewal helped out on some of the facade work. That's all metal. I thought it was concrete when I bought it, but it's all metal. So we found this place. We try to do everything locally. Whenever we always try and local people, keep the money local. But we couldn't get anybody to do that kind of work. So we went to this outfit called Schmear Sheet Metal in Portland. Say that one fast. And they do a lot of like hot rod modifications, and they did all the metal work that TV show Grimm that they filmed in Portland for like several years. They did all the period pieces, all the manufacturing for them. And they were great to work with. I think they were like $3,000 each or something like that. And then some of the to the left of the finials, there's these kind of like rosette kind of patterns, and we had to do a bunch of those. So yeah, I think we spent like $6,000 in sheet metal. The facade grant was nice. It was 70%. So, you know, for easy math, if it was $10,000, you only get 3. So that was really nice. And overall, we got an engineering grant from the city to engineer the foundation. That was about $3,000. I think we got 16 for facade, and then we got 20 for sprinklers from the city. We got a $50,000 Main Street grant, which really helped out. And I was able to leverage some with each other. So, and what I mean by that is I could use, say, if I was clever, it was the right scenario, I could use the Main Street grant to pay for the facade work. So that way, so I would pay like $1,500, and I get $3,000, and then that would be my match for the other thing. So you can actually link them together sometimes if you're clever and it's the right scenario, and they're good with it, and they, you know, that's legit. I wasn't doing anything shady. That's leverage, and they actually like to see that people working together. And because if somebody makes a grant and it's a bad decision, it's all on them. But if 5 people make a grant and it's everything, it's like, hey, he said it was going to work. All right. Any other questions? I'm sure there is. Yeah, Richard.
Can you go back to the picture of the front of the house of Clint's? I have a question about it.
Maybe. Like the front of the house?
The front of the Clint Bolster.
Oh yeah.
That picture. It's like the one in the video.
Let's see if I can get back to that. Yeah, I'm not really agile on this, but there we are. Oh, you can't see see it, I can see it, sorry. Sorry, man, I messed up your test. What's the question?
In the window, above the fruit, above the egg,
Mm-hmm.
there's on the left, as we're looking, there's two framed pictures.
Yep.
What do you know what they are? Is it a bag? Is it a bag or is it a fabric?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't make that out on this screen,
Yeah.
but I can check and get back to you. Like, I can pull down the picture itself and maybe be able to see it. And I don't recall I was more concerned on reading like the writings on the other signs.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were mostly like, we go the extra mile to bring you the freshest local,
Yeah.
it's the same thing that they're saying now, but,
Like you said, you had a high def picture of the photo prior to this one.
Yeah,
I wondered
yeah.
if you had a high def of this one.
It's not quite as high def, but it's pretty good. And the Herbring store pictures are amazing because they used such big negatives back then. So they're really great.
Because the way they're posed, it looks like how a band would pose, actually, of the day.
It could be, and there's some really amazing band pictures from the Dalles, like kind of these like Salvation Army kind of bands and these church bands and things like that with like drums and horns and things like that. And I got my hands on a really amazing, it's like a mandolin orchestra. So there's like different sized mandolins and there's women and men in this group. It's very, very cool. So, the Dalles was like really the cultural place, right? We had the opera houses, we had the movie theaters, we had the stages. Like this is where everybody came for that stuff. So there was a lot of culture happening in the Dalles. And
Victor, would you mind repeating the questions when people ask them downstairs? We can hear you, but we can't hear you.
Yep. Thank you for that. It was the one on the storefront, the Clint's. There they are.
Not the
The next one, sorry. So yeah, above the boxes of apples there. Oh, it's totally dogs play poker. Yeah, and shoot pool. Yeah. I was wondering where that came from. So if you want to follow anything that's going on, so we built the website. So my company is actually Grand Dalles Trading Company is what I'm going with these days. And the website is Grand Dalles, GRANDE, like the old river maps, Lewis and Clark area. So granddalles.com, and then it has the Airbnb links and then the store hours and stuff like that. So yeah, you can always go there. And I'm starting to work. I have a page that's called like Discover the Dalles with like places to eat and listen to music and stuff like that. So if you ever want to send somebody, some information on what's happening. And I'm gonna start doing more of the history. So I'll have like this kind of stuff, the history, the restoration pictures, and some of the cool stuff from the Dalles. Like one of the, so we have a lot in the tea shop. We've got a lot of pictures, and one of the sequences I've been working on is very cool. It's that Watkins picture from the original one, looking from Rockland or Dallasport over here. And you see the old wooden church. It has a very tall, skinny steeple on it. And then later, you see it has like a shorter, squattier steeple on it. And I'm assuming like the wind just tore down a really tall one. But at that point, you can see the Herbring house and the rectory is attached to the wooden church, and you can see the big St. Mary's, the big brick St. Mary's school is there and stuff. And then when they decided to build St. Peter's landmark, they actually cut the wooden church away from the rectory. And I have a picture of this. You can see this big jagged cut where they cut it apart. And then they drug the old wooden church onto our property. And they continued to go to Mass in that building while they were building St. Peter's brick landmark, which I think took a couple of years. And so when they dedicated that on St. Patty's Day of like 97 or whatever, So I have a picture of the two churches. So they're building the brick church and then the wood church. So then after they consecrated the brick church and started going to mass there, what I read was they disassembled the old wooden church and then they floated it down to Stevenson and then they rebuilt it down there and used it as a church. And I haven't found that picture yet. It's not there now, but if anybody wants a history assignment, I could really use a picture of that building in Stevenson, and extra credit, that church floating down the river on a barge. Free coffee for life, yeah.
When did they build the brick church?
That's a good question.
1898 was dedication.
Dedicated, yeah, so what year was the church, the brick church built? It was dedicated in 1898. And what year did they probably start on that?
97.
Oh, it only took them a year.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So, yes, a lot. I gotta watch my dates in this room. There's a lot of. So we've got that sequence. We've got some great pictures of St. Mary's when it's really new, and we've got Anyway, we're always adding to the collection. So, do you have any questions, Roger? Oh, Colleen, yes.
Do you want to talk about the gate? that
Oh,
you
yeah, thank
repurposed?
you.
I
Yeah.
think that's, I just want to say,
Yeah.
and you can repeat me.
Yep.
The tea shop is a very cozy place to meet up with friends. It's a really great ambiance you created. And then how you repurpose things that had a different life somewhere else. The doors and that gate.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the original question is, can I talk a little bit about St. Mary's Gate? And then she said that how nice the tea shop is and comfortable for meeting friends and a lot of things have been repurposed and reused, which is partly because I'm pretty resourceful, but mostly because people are very generous. Herbring House seemed to have its own gravitational pull, like things just kind of come to us. It's like surreal, like how cool it is. So the gate that Colleen is asking about, when they tore down St. Mary's Academy, people were making off with all kinds of pieces and parts because it was just going to go to the landfill. And this family, they grabbed this very beautiful wrought iron gate and saved it from, disappearing forever. And like a lot of things, we grab something thinking that we can do something with it and then never get around to finding the place it belongs to. So they're like, we've had this thing for like 60 years. Maybe it'd be good down here. And then people can enjoy it and appreciate it and be close to where it came from originally. I'm like, do you think that's best? Yeah, we could probably buy the next one. Just be cool, man. Just be cool. So we brought it down, and it's this amazing. It's 48 inches wide, and it's this beautiful wrought iron gate that perfectly matches with the Herbring gate. I'm sure it was the same person that built it. And what it was there was on the back end of St. Mary's Academy, there was like a garden area that was just for the sisters of the Holy Names who came to the area and built the schools. It was like their private little area. And my mom, who went to St. Mary's when she was young, remembers that little space. And like one time a year, they could kind of parade through there. It was like May Day or Mary's Day or whatever. And there was a little statue of Mary in there and stuff. So we put it up over in the corner that's closest to St. Peter's landmark. And so it's just kind of across the street from where I was. And what I've been trying to figure out is, if you stand behind St. Peter's in my place, you can line up 3 crosses, so the very peak rooster, and then there's one on the main part of the building, and then there's one more that's a little lower. So you can line up 3 crosses, little Tres Cruces thing. So I was thinking that maybe we need a statue of Mary in that located area. And I am not churchy at all, but I think it'll be like a really sweet nod to the Sisters of the Holy Names who did so much for like educating people and stuff like that. So yeah, we can find a really good statue of Mary and put her in her little space in there. I think that'd be very cool. And we'll get some park benches so you can look up at the church and do things like that. Yeah.
So, have you got any musical acts coming up that you want to talk about?
Musical acts, Roger is asking about. We have nothing like right away, but we've got, I've been doing these Irish music tours. We take groups of people over to Ireland, and so a lot of these Irish musicians, they come this way and we try and find them gigs. So we've got a really amazing uilleann piper, like an Irish bagpiper, coming in November. A guy named Tom Delaney, who played on my record, and his wife Carolyn plays concertina. So we're going to have them play. I've got this unofficial series called Dingle to the Dalles. Dingle, Ireland is like the Austin, Texas of Ireland. It's like the music town. It's like 2,000 people with like 40 pubs, and they all have music. So we've been bringing some great Irish musicians. You know, the Civic is going to have like a full-on Celtic, like river dance kind of production, I think in May. I don't really have anything to do with it, but it looks very cool. A lot of Irish dancers and Irish, really high-end Irish musicians and things like that. I think it might be May 15th, so that might be worth checking out. But we're always doing things, and here's the thing, the best way to know what's going on is I have an email list. So if you go to granddalles.com, at the bottom of every page, there's a sign-up for the email list, so you can know what's going on if we have music. Because a lot of it's kind of like guerrilla style. Like, if somebody comes through, we might put something together really fast. So, and you know, with like Facebook and stuff, you can have 1,000 followers and 5 people see your post. You know, those guys, they just want you to pay for everything. So the email is really where it's at if you want to know what's going on. So, yeah. Any other questions in making? Yeah?
Victor, what was across the 4th Street in front of the place?
What was across 4th Street from my place?
It's always been a real vacant place.
Well, directly across, there's a house there that, on that big grassy lot, which you can see in that very first picture of the church, the Watkins picture from Dalles Court. That house is there. You can see the white church, the old school Herbring, and then that big house, which was the owner of the Umatilla house. One of the co-owners of Umatilla. I'm blanking the name right now. Maybe Carolyn or somebody knows that. But so that house has been there from at least 1860s, and that's pretty amazing. To the left of it is just a parking lot right now, and to the right of it, if you're looking at it, was the house that burned down, the Pentland house. Well, it didn't burn down. Yeah, it kind of burned down. It caught fire, and then they put it out, and then it burned down later. So, and then they started a project there, but it stalled out, and it's just kind of, yeah, I don't know what to do. Supposedly that was the first house with indoor plumbing in the Dalles, the Pentland house. So, does that answer the question, or you might get the wrong place?
How was basically that parking lot area as well?
Yeah, the parking lot, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I actually bought it. So I bought that so we got more flexibility with what we do. And it went with that apartment building, so which used to be the, I can't think of what the name it was now. Joan Court, thank you, yeah. So that Joan Court apartment sold, and I just assumed that the lot went with it, but then like a few months later, there was a sign up on it, and then it was way overpriced. And like a year later, I gave them a crazy lowball offer, and they took it. So, but I'm pretty sure, and I haven't proven this yet, but I'm pretty sure that where those apartments are is where the previous St. Mary's School was, because they talk about it being at the 4th in Lincoln, and we know that the rectory was on the northwest corner. We know that the movie house, the place that burned down, was on that corner. That would have been the 1800s. And then we know the Snipes house is on the 3rd corner. So it really only leaves that other. So I think the St. Mary's Academy, one version, was there. So, and I don't have any proof of this, but kind of what,
Now you're getting closer to my room control, because I always heard of those connections.
yeah, I think so. I'm having a little trouble hearing just because this fan kicked on,
What?
but yeah, no, I think so. I'm pretty sure. And it's funny because these little bits and pieces keep coming in. So it's like a puzzle, right? So we'll get enough pieces of the puzzle. And here's the really thing. This is like kind of weird, but you know, with technology and stuff, I think we'll be able to piece together enough. Here's the great thing about the Dalles, that there's been so much history here in the first place, and there's been so many people that are into history, like yourselves, that there's been a lot of photographs, there's been a lot of diaries, there's been a lot of transcriptions of people's oral tradition and things like that. You know, with computing power the way it's going, I imagine we'll be able to recreate the Dalles in different periods of time, and it'll be probably fairly accurate. You know, with like AI could fill in some of the blanks and stuff like that. So I know it's a little Star Trek-y, but at some point we might be able to be walking through a holographic version of the Dalles in 1864 or 1890 or whatever you want to set it on. So I won't do it anymore. That's a little weird, but it'll probably happen at some point. All right. So I'm going to get to the last slide here. Unless there's any other questions. I know you guys got a lot to do on a Saturday. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks to all the people here at the original courthouse for all they do. Roger, I hope you're around for another 45 years like Carl did. We'll get a holographic version of you and Carl. We like do the tours. And yeah, I'll hang out if anybody has any questions. And there's our man, Carl Recruitment. Yeah, big hand for Carl. I really miss Carl. I miss him as a person, and I miss his information. There's so many times, like, I go to ask him a question, it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I can't access that anymore. So, anyway, thanks everybody.